Today we have a very exciting video, I know you're gonna love it. Tomorrow is Ahsoka Part 7, and earlier in the week I covered some leaks and rumours for the upcoming episode, but not to worry. If you don't want to be spoiled, I will not be talking about any of those today. You can go and check out that video for a rundown of the juicy spoilers that we expect in the last two parts. But in this video, we're gonna do a rundown of some exciting news, some speculation, looking at a couple of theories, and so much more. Before we dive into it though, my dear friends, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button if you've not done so, and hit the bell to be alerted every time that I post a new video. So no more jibber jabber, let's begin. In the same way that Ahsoka Episode 6 had a new director to the Star Wars franchise, so too does Part 7, Geeta Patel. Best known for her work on House of the Dragon and the first Fast and Furious movie, she's got an extensive writing and directing career in both film and TV. There is every reason to believe the penultimate episode of Season 1 is in great hands, and I can't believe I'm saying penultimate episode. This show has just flown by, and we're just a week away from the finale, so this next episode has a lot to accomplish, but as I mentioned before, we don't expect a satisfying ending. That's right, according to some of the rumours, there is a cliffhanger coming, and a big twist that I don't think fans are ready for. So in terms of the runtime, which I usually bring up in these preview videos, as of the time of the making of this video, we don't actually know. There has been nothing from the usual sources who leak such things. We're left in the dark about the last two. As you might expect, there is quite a bit of secrecy compared to normal for 7 and 8, but that renders it ever more exciting. So I want to begin with something making the rounds, a little Easter egg. On Baylan's wrist in Aurebesh, we see the names of the classic original trilogy main characters. We see Han, Leia, C-3PO, R2, Ben, and while some fans think this could be tied to the plot, I'm afraid to say it's not. This is just an Easter egg, just as they've been throwing in some things in the background here and there. They do this with pretty much every Disney Plus show. I would say this is a nothing burger, but just a cool little reference for those fans who look at very specific details and who try to catch out small things. I would love for it to be related to those characters, but I'm afraid it probably isn't. Now, I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, but something pertaining to this may or may not play into the next couple of episodes. Go and check out my full spoilers for episode 7 for that, but in the context of Baylan maybe looking for Luke and Leia, while it's a cool idea, I just think this is a mere Easter egg. They probably will eventually play into Season 2 and Dave's film, but with 2 episodes to go, I would not hold my breath. But there's one thing for sure, Dave Filoni has left us with a ton of questions. Let's start with what does Ezra know about Thrawn's plans? At some point after arriving in Peridea, Ezra made a run for it, and is now living in the wilderness with natives known as the Noti. Thrawn is unsure whether Ezra is alive, but he gives Sabine a chance to go find him, expecting her to die. And then he sends Baylan and Shin to go after them, and as I said before, I think all of our Force users are going to team up against Thrawn eventually. But for now it doesn't seem to make sense how Ezra survived all these years without Thrawn finding him and killing him. I did mention that Ezra has some of the dog tags of fallen stormtroopers, so maybe Thrawn did send a bunch of night troopers after him, but Ezra successfully defeated them. But to flip the equation, does Ezra know about Thrawn's whereabouts and his master plan? Surely, as a Force sensitive, he knows about the Night Sisters, their dark magic. He must feel them in the Force, as well as some of the Force entities and deities we spoke about in my last video. And now the reunion between Sabine and Ezra has taken place, they have a lot to talk about, and trying to figure out how they're going to return to the known galaxy if they do. Could this be a plot twist? Is one of our heroes going to stay behind? I've seen a few speculate that by the time Ahsoka gets there, which might be in the next episode, but could also be saved for episode 8, could Thrawn have already departed for the known galaxy? And if this is the case, and Ahsoka is stranded on Peridea, then this could set up Season 2, leaving the New Republic in the known galaxy to deal with Thrawn until Ahsoka returns. Keeping in line with the way the show's written, I kind of get a bad feeling there is a sense of irony when Ezra tells Sabine he can't wait to go back home. Sabine is going to have to tell him what happened on Cetos and how she has no idea how they're going to return. In Sabine's mind, up until this point, none of what was subsequent mattered. She just wanted to be reunited with Ezra, and now that she's got what she's wanted, there is no telling what's going to happen next. Escaping the eerie wasteland is not going to be easy for any of them. And another reason I think Baylan and Shin are going to unite with Ezra and Sabine is that they too don't have a way of getting back home. Thrawn doesn't like them, and I get a sense when he sent them out to find Sabine and Ezra, he kind of expected them to fail because he knows how powerful Ezra is, even without his lightsaber. If Ezra is able to destroy some of his stormtroopers, therein lies the secret of why Thrawn didn't try to follow up and eventually abandon the idea of finding Ezra. and there is a strong possibility Ezra Bridger himself has his own plans to take out Thrawn. He must have considered if Sabine one day finds him, which now she's done, there was always a chance he would need a plan B in case they couldn't get back home. And there is another question Part 6 brought up. How does Thrawn know Sabine? If you're familiar with the 4 seasons of Star Wars Rebels, he knows quite a bit about her Mandalorian past, her artistic side. However, out of all of the members of the Ghost Crew that Thrawn's met face to face, until Ahsoka Episode 6, Sabine was not one of them. So when the Grand Admiral says, it's nice to hear a familiar name and it's nice to see a familiar face, fans were wondering, wait, have the two met? Well, not until now. When you sit down and really think about it, Thrawn and Sabine do have a lot in common despite being enemies. They're two sides of the same coin. They both share a love of art. Sabine was a graffiti artist and Thrawn is a notorious collector. They both attempted to fit in somewhere they didn't belong. But in spite of the fact these two are meeting for the first time face to face, following the events of Malachor, Grand Admiral Thrawn was assigned to hunt down the Spectres, the rebel cell led by Hera Syndulla. Although Hera and the rest of the heroes routinely made short work of most Imperial forces, Thrawn was their greatest foe throughout the series. And he nearly had success defeating our heroes on Atollon and Lothal, but he didn't. He indirectly knew about Sabine, but we never saw the two meet until this show, and in Rebels Season 4, he's got a piece of her artwork and uses it against Ezra. And so now onto Baylan and Shin. I've made a couple of videos outlining what I think is going to happen with these two, what Baylan is looking for, the similarities between Shin and Ezra, but there is something thematically interesting I've not seen mentioned about when Baylan does speak to Ezra Bridger, and it is purely symbolic. It's probably not going to affect the plot, but I do want to dedicate some time to talk about it. Given the show's underlying theme of overcoming the past, as well as the theme of master and apprentice, there is an added layer of depth and meaning coming with Baylan and Ezra because the latter comes from the Shatterpoint line. That is to say, if you trace the lineage of his Jedi tutelage, you arrive back at Mace Windu. Mace trained Depa Billaba, who trained Kanan Jarrus, who trained Ezra Bridger. Ezra did not train at the temple, and just like Shin, Ezra was taken on as a Padawan long after the Jedi fell. And hopefully one day soon, Ezra will train Jason, and the line lives on. So how does this relate to Baylan? While not explicitly mentioned, he no doubt remembers both Master Windu, Master Billaba, and probably young Kanan too. While Ezra wasn't around yet, he is the product of that ongoing line of Jedi. Baylan has a lot of pain. He clearly resents the Jedi for being blinded and arrogant so as to let Palpatine manipulate them and slip under their noses and destroy the Order. There is a lot of emotion there, which is why he is seeking to end the cycle. Mace Windu was one of those authoritative figures of the High Jedi Council, a literal embodiment of what the Order represented. Not only was he an essential general in the Clone Wars, but a Jedi Master who upheld tradition and customs of the Order. And yet, in the eyes of many, he was everything wrong with the Order. And Baylan probably sees him as one of the reasons it fell. Baylan tells us he saw the Order collapse, and he words it as if he was an eyewitness. Is it possible Baylan was one of the Jedi in the temple when Anakin stormed it during Operation Nightfall? Was Baylan spared? Did he escape? Did he bargain? Was he wounded but survived? Was he taken on as an Inquisitor? Whatever the case, this is how he knows Anakin turned to the dark side, and is one of the few who saw what he became. To those who blame the Jedi for what became of the galaxy, including the Empire itself, with its anti-Jedi propaganda following Order 66, the presumably deceased Mace Windu was seen as one of the most treasonous traitors in the galaxy. That's how he went down in history, someone who was anti-democracy, one who was portrayed as evil. And maybe Baylan internalized this. It is clear from his attitude that he holds resentment towards what happened, and wants power greater than all of it, to prevent it happening again. But you know, I said it before, Baylan is not a villain. He's got a lot of nostalgia for the Jedi. I think Baylan is going to team up with our heroes. But he misses the idea of the Jedi, not what they stood for. It's extremely doubtful the show's going to address this, but it's interesting food for thought. Baylan knew Mace Windu, who Ezra descends from in terms of the Shatterpoint line. And the only reason I say this is because Baylan used Ahsoka's master against her. And granted, Ezra didn't even know Mace Windu or even Depa Billaba, but he did know Kanan. None of that matters, and at this stage, Ezra is a completely changed Force user, one with a different philosophy and outlook on life. And you've heard me say the word Shatterpoint a few times. We first see it in Legends, but it was reintroduced in some canon material too. A Shatterpoint is a critical point or moment in a person's life or a situation where a small action or decision has a significant and far-reaching impact. It's a philosophical concept used by skilled Jedi Masters, who believe that certain individuals have the ability to see and manipulate these Shatterpoints. But with that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on everything we spoke about in the comments down below. Go and check out the other videos I posted earlier in the week. I covered a ton of different theories, and I can't wait to break down episode 7 tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you, always.